I remember the very first time we saw the tryouts, and Thomas, he just fell in love with baseball the moment he picked up the glove. He's like, Mom, can I try out? And I'm like, yeah, let's go do the tryouts. I wasn't, you just don't know. So he said, Mom, how did I try out there? I look good? I'm like, Thomas, we'll just have to wait and see. So all night he was just waiting for the phone call, waiting for the email. Because I didn't have email at that time. I was one of the last ones. And he finally got the phone call, and he was just so excited.
I mean, I just remember the first tryout that we had with the boys, 7 years old. Came here obviously not knowing really much about them, and getting together for that first all-star tryout, and basically starting to set the building blocks and seeing how talented and deep the team was, especially as a local group of kids who are, go to the same schools and hang out together, to see that mix of talent together. I knew, just having done this so many times before over so many years, that it was a unique blend of talent, and that was the first thing that kind of popped out at me.
I guess the beginning for Ian, it all started with trying out for All-Stars when he was 7 years old. It was kind of an amazing journey for him. We had lost my uncle 3 months before, who absolutely loved baseball. So Ian was kind of struggling with that. I remember him trying out. I remember him hitting 3 pitches out of 10 off the pitching machine. I remember him coming to me crying because he was all upset. And I just told him to go chase the ball. Go do what he wanted to do. Don't worry about it and have fun. We came home. It poured after that. And then he was waiting and waiting and waiting. It wasn't very long, but for a 7-year-old, it seemed like forever. And then I had tucked him in bed. It was bedtime. And the phone rang, and it was Coach John. And I told Ian he hadn't fallen asleep yet, and he was thrilled, over the moon, and just absolutely ecstatic. And that began our journey. And it's been the only sport that he's tried, and he absolutely loves it.
I don't know how many people know how Mickey ended up on the team, but he was playing a game, and he and Andrew were playing, and he had broken his couple of his fingers, and he had a cast up to his pretty much his elbow, and he was sitting on the bench, and Coach Cutchy was, I guess, scouting the team or whatever you want to call it at first base. And long story short, he had asked Coach Cutchy if he could try out for the team, and he had the cast up to his elbow, and he says, I'll still do whatever it is. And it was great because John let him come out for tryouts, and he tried out and did everything he could with his cast on, and he made the team. So he gave him a chance even though he was injured.
First time I met John Cutchy, and it was after a rec game, and I guess he was out looking for players that he wanted to try out for the tryouts. So he came up to Thomas and said, Thomas, you coming out for tryouts? And Thomas says yes. And I came up behind Thomas and introduced myself. And he looked at me and he says, I don't need you, I need him. And I was like, whoa, unless you plan on picking him up every day and bringing him home every day, you do need me. But I'll never forget our very first scrimmage. And, kids had their new uniforms, and it was all new to them. And we were having a scrimmage, and I want to say we were in a Middletown field. And so the scrimmage starts, and we're sitting there and we're watching, and all of a sudden the score starts racking up. And by the end of the game, we were just like, whoa, because the score was 33-1. And I remember Rob Cox, I think that was his name. He was one of the earlier coaches we had. And he was walking off the field, and he kept shaking his head. He says, because the boys had 3 double plays. He kept shaking his head. How do you have 3 double plays and lose 33-1? How do you have 3 double? And that's all he kept saying as he's walking off the field. And our scorekeeper, who became our scorekeeper at that time, I was cracking up. I was laughing at her because, she went down the column, and then she'd have to start another column. She says, Connie, I don't know what to do. She's like, I never done this before. I said, you better go ask the coach, because because they would just kept scoring and scoring. With 33, you're going down the column. She's like, and I said, you better go ask the coach. So she had to, and you should have seen the scorebook for that game. I mean, it was atrocious. First tournament, I think it was our first tournament, and we're at UMAC. And we're playing in one of our first games, and I think it was Woodsboro. And it's not that, I forget which team it really was. Well, they had somebody on that team, a parent, I think it was a grandparent, that was not very nice. And we as parents, we're sitting there, oh yay, Tom, she did great, or Brooke, she did, whoever it was, clapping, and all of a sudden the tone changed. And this guy was like giving John all the talk, going up and down, because John was on third base coach, and he was just yelling at him. And we as parents were just like, we couldn't believe it. We're like, what is he saying? Why is he yelling? And our boys, they had no idea what was going on. And they're just like looking around, this man yelling at their coach. And the umpire stopped the game once, I'm pretty sure, and he warned the parents and the coaches that he would eject them or he would stop the game. So then it settled down for a little bit, and then it started back up again. And the umpire said, that's it. And he warned them again. And then, if I'm not mistaken, that's the game. I think we were either tied or we were up a run. And it rained. It started to thunder, lightning, and they had to call the game. But as a parent, we're like, we're just like, what did we get ourselves into? Why are these people yelling? Why are they being so mean? And I guess it was the next day, poor Jen Burnett, man, she's like, that's it. I'm going to the car. She had had enough. And I think we were playing Urbana. She was done. She's like, I can't handle anymore. And then I think she came back. And then I said to my husband, I said, where's Jen? He said, see that woman out there in center field? There's Jen. She got tired of it. She doesn't want to hear any more. She wanted to watch the game, but she's sitting out in center field. I'm like, oh. So I just started waving to Jen.
Thought it was funny, too, in that the 8U, the UMAC, was it 7U or 8U? I can't remember, with the UMAC tournament. And we ended up in that game with the Urbana fans there and kind of pushing us out of seats, and we got our first taste of why Walkersville and Urbana don't get along.
That's when poor Jen went to the car crying because she was so upset that the Urbana people were being so mean. They were mean because we were sitting on their side. God forbid that.
Oh, that's funny. Yep.
And certainly some of those battles with Urbana stand out in my mind, in particular because there was a tension with Urbana, and it even trickled into the adults, which always doesn't sit well with me. And as you look back on it, I think now we really enjoy playing Urbana and some of those families and those coaches. And I think that teaches us a lot about life as well as baseball, because ultimately this is not about baseball.
I just think it's great that just about all the kids that are on the team have been together so long, and we've lost a few. I think Carter High started at the younger ages and he moved on to lacrosse, but for the most part the core of all the kids have continued to play together and get better, and it's just amazing to see them each year grow, and it's just kind of makes you proud,
I just remember the time when the boys had to call time and we had no idea that first time.
Yeah.
Weren't we like 30-0 or something, and we had no idea what was going on with the time? What the heck? We never learned that.
It was a unique.
And then when all the parents were yelling, time!
Call time. Yeah, and that froze the base runners where they were when the ball came in and the player yelled time. It took us a while to figure out what that was. That's funny. I forgot all about that.
Nobody ever told us that.
The Blade Valley Wildcats. From the Blade Valley Wildcats, we have number 15, Chase Bailey. Number 1, Ian Bear. Number 4, Elias Baruti. Number 6, Jackson Brust. Number 12, Brooks Burnett. Number 9, Colin Carbonero. Number 11, Mark Cox. Number 33, Thomas Fogel. Number 7, Tyler Gleason. Number 21, Sam Hernandez.
Who else, Mike?
Number 8, Carter High. Number 5, Jacob Tucci. Number 3, Zach Mathis. And number 14, Ethan Parrish, with head coach John Tucci and assistant coaches Mike Hyde and Kevin Carbonaro. Good luck, Glade Valley.
And that year, the poor boys, they were mercied almost every single game. They were done by the 4th inning. They were smaller, and a lot of the kids weren't even 8. So I know it was a couple games later, we had to wait in between games. It was really hot. So every parent took their kid and, put shorts on them and waited for the next game. And we took Thomas back to the truck, and I looked at him, and he just had his hands against the Suburban like this, and he was in tears, and he says, "Mommy, I just want to make it to the end of a game." And he was in tears, and I felt so bad for him. I'm like, "Thomas, you will, honey. You guys will get it together, and you will, you'll get there." Well, the very next game we played Mount Airy, and I'm pretty sure it was Mount Airy. And it was back and forth. It was a good game, and we were hanging in there. And I'd gone down to Kathy because she was keeping score, and I said, "Kathy," because we were nearing the 4th inning, and we weren't winning by any means, but it was close. So I went down to Kathy, and I said, "Kathy, what's the score? We're going to make it to the end of the game." She looks at me. She says, "That depends on whether Thomas catches that ball or not." And I went, "Oh!" And I'm like, because it was a pop-up to Thomas at that very moment, and if he missed it, then it would have been mercied. And I just was like, "Oh my goodness!" And he caught it, thankfully. And that game, they made it to the end. And you would have thought that we had just won the state title. I mean, I think Jen it was Jen's idea to do the parent bridge when they came out. And I think the Mount Airy people thought we were crazy because they were like, "You lost, and we're celebrating as though we just won."
Probably the funniest and the coolest moment at that age level was the state tournament. When our goal was just not to get 10 runs in a game, and we got to that game against a team who I think ultimately won the state championship. I can't remember if it was UMAC or Charles County or something, and we got through 6 innings, and the parents came down on the field and did the whole created the bridge thing so the boys could come through and celebrate. And to me, that was just the funniest thing of the season, and I'll never forget that celebration, just the happiness of getting through 6 innings in a baseball game. And then I think after that, we went to Smithsburg, so it was like our last tournament of the season, and we actually won a couple games there, and you could just see sort of that something clicked and the transition to the next team where we were legitimately considered one of the top 2 or 3 8U teams in the state.
I think one that stands out in my mind was the UMAC tournament. I'm going to say we were 8 or 9 years old, and we were playing machine pitch, and it was the first tournament that we won. And we figured out that this is maybe the little team that could. We're just Walkersville, and we don't pull from everywhere. And I remember Mike High, who's a good guy, yelling out, "That's Wildcat baseball," and we won a tournament in the 9th inning or something like that, and it was just a lot of fun.
I think UMAC was probably the most memorable tournament because we were so low in the seed and we just kept winning, and it was just a very hot day, and we kept playing. We had 4 games that day, even though it was machine pitch and it was hot, and the day just got hotter as we seemed to be going on, and the weather was hot and the boys were hot, and they won that one.
At the 8U level, I mean, the UMAC tournament for this group still probably, even 5-6 years later, still stands out as one of the coolest experiences ever. We went into the elimination round of that. I remember it was a hot Sunday, and I can't remember if we had to play 4 games that day. And we took out the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and ultimately won the UMAC championship. And I still, to this day, for feel-good moments, go back to the pictures of the boys, and it was the first thing they really ever won. I mean, they've gotten participation trophies and some other things over, but this is the first one that they earned as a champion. And total look of just enjoyment and surprise on their face, and some of the still pictures that we have of those critical moments after the last out against Glen Burnie, and it was just magical.
When we were 8U, it was machine pitch at UMAC, and we were playing, I want to say we were playing Urbana, and Mason was up, and he hit a liner down the first base line, and it, like I said, that was, I think for me, one of the biggest, you know, it was a crucial moment in the game, and he came up big, and I think that stood out to me, you know.
Oh, I definitely UMAC when they were really little. It was, I think, Mickey's first tournament with the whole group. And I forget whether they played 4 or 5 games in a row. I'm sure someone will correct me on that, but it was this incredible, they had such endurance and they all just clicked and they won. And it was just very emotional because Mickey was the new kid at the time. And he was just included with open arms. I mean, from parents to the players, it was just one of these feats of endurance. That's how I want to say it. It was hot. I just remember all of us really just, we didn't think the boys could pull it off because they had played their hearts out the entire time. And to play that number of games, I believe it was in 1 or 2 days, but it was this consecutive, and we kept moving from field to field, and they did it, and it was just amazing. Not just because they won, but because they played so well together. They encouraged each other, and they did it. It was just one of those happy moments.
If I'm not mistaken, the temperature was probably around 100, 102 degrees. So we started early, and I want to say it was an 8:30, 9 o'clock game. And it was single elimination. If you didn't win, you went home. So they won the first game. And we're like, okay, that's good. They won the second game. All right, this is great. We're moving forward. And it's hot. They won the third game. And now they're expected to go play. The third game meant they made the championship game. So now we had time in between. So we took the kids to air conditioning, and everybody went and fed them. Now they're expected to play a championship game against the team that mercied them, against a team that, if I'm not mistaken, they were in the winning bracket, of course, so they only had to play maybe 1 or 2 games. So they're on fresh legs, fresh everything. We as parents, we stunk to high. We smelled so bad. We smelled as bad as the kids because we were out there with them. So there we are, championship game. And we as parents were just like, wow. And I know that, because there's a lot of support here at GVAA. Some of the coaches, and I know other people were calling, other parents from other teams to say, look here, we've made it. And I know other parents and coaches came down just to watch our kids play the championship game. But it was a spectacular game. Those boys played with everything they had. They left nothing on the field, and they won.
I just like seeing their improvement year to year. I mean, to see them when they were 9 years old, and routine ground balls or pop-ups, they just would miss or not even be close to them, and now they make the plays look effortless in a lot of cases, and it's just seeing their maturity level improve and their growth and their growth as a team, as teammates, I think really impresses me, and I enjoy. I always remember that part of it more than any particular game.
Yeah, I would say that something similar, just watching them go from, the small field to the big field, and then they're stealing, and the plays are getting more complicated, and things that I wouldn't think 12-year-olds could do, so watching them all grow together, I would say, too.
They were 8's first time pitching, which that scared me to no end. Thomas at first said he didn't want to pitch, and I was like, yes, that he would rather catch than pitch. Yeah, that all changed. He started pitching, and it was done for. So I had to learn had to sit there in the stands and be quiet and watch him pitch.
Having the state tournaments here was big, and playing so well in those, you know, it's, like I said, it's just real special. Especially, I think Shelby hit on it when we were at Ripken, that you know, we're a local town team. We're not a, you know, draw from Frederick or West Virginia or wherever. I think that speaks volumes also, to be competitive with those travel teams, and it just really says a lot about the program and about the coaching and so on and so forth.
And then the team changed a little bit going into 9s. We had gotten, I am thinking 8s. We had gotten a couple new players, and then we had lost a player the next year, but it just all worked. It really, truly worked. And the kids love each other, and Thomas, you know, has met, these are his friends. These are his, you know, he has met, I think, friends for life almost. One of his friends on the team, you know, they talk about where they're going to go to college together. They want to go to college together. It's that kind of relationship.
9U, that was the year we reached the state championship. So, I mean, we did real well that year in all of our tournaments, but that was the one where we dominated through the bracket play of the states and faced off with Hickory in the state final, and oh, we were so close. So close to winning that, and it still stinks to this day. And, you know, at the time we didn't know, Hickory didn't know us and we didn't know Hickory, and to find out how stacked Hickory actually was, and their program, and how accomplished they were, and, you know, we more than stood toe to toe with them. They know they got away with one there, and that was a big one for us. That was a big opportunity, and the boys did so wonderfully well that whole season, but the state championship was one thing that I'll never forget out of that season.
So here we are, the state championship. You know, is your name going to be up there as 9U state champions, or are you going to be the runners-up? And it was a good game. It was, the umpires were good. They were fair. There was the coaches didn't have to step in to say, look, you know, you called that for their, you know, there was none of that. There was no parent being overly obnoxious. No, it truly was a good game. You couldn't say anything bad about it. The boys played well. They played strong. And for me and my son, for Thomas, it was a defining moment for Thomas. Thomas has been hit in the mouth. He's bled. He's, you know, had to come out of a game because of blood. You know, it got hit in the mouth pretty bad one time, and he wanted to, you know, blood was gone. He wanted to get back in. Well, the score, if I'm not mistaken, was 4-2, and it was the bottom of the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. And we were at our 3rd out. I mean, it was go big or go home, and Thomas was up. And so, you know, I'm sitting in the stands, and, you know, God had given me this tremendous peace over this game. And I was just, you know, and I remember a parent saying to me, I'm glad that's not my son up there. And I was like, but it's mine. And I will have to take every strike, every ball, everything with him. And we had a runner on base, so Thomas was the tying run. And he struck out. And to this day, I get emotional for him because he was devastated. He, in his mind, of course, let his team down, and Thomas is very compassionate. I mean, Thomas just loves his teammates, loves his team, loves this game. And Thomas hit his knees. He was on his knees, face in the dirt, and, you know, of course, you know, run over, you know, Thomas, it's okay. And but the thing of it is, it was a blessing from God, because it taught Thomas to get back up, and that he is going to have those moments where he is just devastated, where, he wanted to be he wanted to get that hit more than anything and get on base and move that runner around and be the tying run to win the state championship. But it wasn't to be that day.
Well, I was glad to see him get the opportunity to pitch when we were at Myrtle Beach and at Ripken Stadium. So I think that's something he'll always remember. Actually, I asked him what was his most memorable moment from that trip, and he said the opportunity to pitch. So I was happy to see that. And there was one tournament, and it was in Howard County probably 2 years ago. I can't remember who we were playing, but I just remember Walkersville was down. We were down by a few runs, and Drew got up and hit a double into center field and started a rally, which propelled the team to the win. And I was proud that he got that hit and got them going.
When we first joined GVAA, Brett was playing for Luya, and so I thought we had our hands full because Brett was doing that travel team. Brandon was doing another travel team. I think Bryce was doing baseball too, right?
Yeah.
And so then, all of a sudden, one day, Shelby comes home and was like, so I was talking to John, and how about if Brett starts playing also for GVAA? And I'm thinking next year. And he's like, no, this season. I'm like, so this season we're playing like 2 travel teams. Well, we're going to try to, he's going to go into this team, so we're going to try to work out to where he can do as many games with GVA as possible. And so then our weekends were completely demolished. It was all just like baseball. But it was fine because, it was fun. This is a really cool team. You know a lot of the parents, and you're really good friends with them,
I think what mostly stands out for me is all the positions that he played at, and he enjoyed that a lot. I think I got more frustrated than he did, but he enjoys being all over the place, so it didn't faze him in the least.
And I do remember when he was coming in his first year, and he threw his first, was it a knuckleball?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was funny because when he threw the knuckleball, it was so high, it was like there's no way the kid was going to even like attempt to hit it, and then it just came right into the strike zone, and the kid was still looking, and the umpire called strike. And then all you heard on the outfield was giggles from all of his teammates, and I just love that memory.
Yeah.
They're like, they couldn't stop, they're like, giggle, and they're like, I remember Jacob was like, what was that? It was like the first time they see that kind of knuckleball, so that was one of the fun experiences I remember off that team, because it was just giggles galore. For me, I liked one of the games in Myrtle Beach. How many RBIs did he have?
In the 2-game span, he had 11 RBIs.
So that was kind of like a little record for him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, because I think eventually all the work paid off, and he finally came together in Myrtle Beach for like that week-long game where he was hitting really good. But that kind of stands out. That, or I like when pitching, I like when he goes to like he's pitching, he'll go to a 3-0 count, and then we're all nervous because like, don't walk him, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's striking the kid out. So I personally like when he pitches, because he's so sneaky that way. It's kind of fun to watch that. Remember his first winter workouts back with GVA? He was so nervous. He's, am I going to be good enough for this team?
Oh, yeah.
And then Alex
shoved him, pushed him down, as if to say, welcome back.
And then they all start laughing, giggling, and then all of a sudden, just like he was relaxed and he's off, good to go. But before that, he was just so stiff and tight.
Yep. After that, he just, every brick in that wall collapsed as soon as Alex pushed him.
Yep.
And we have these memories of these great games and the bad games, and because Becky took the time to set up for us on Facebook our group and come out here and take these pictures. I mean, I have pictures of Thomas that I never would have had without you, Becky. And cookies. Becky, our great baker and picture taker. Hey, that rhymes. Our baker and our picture taker.